Here's how you check the tension on the primary chain on a Royal Enfield. You'll find that it's very similar to a Harley-Davidson Sportster engine with a peephole at the top that you can look into to check the chain. The difference being on the Enfield, if you need to adjust it, you have to take that whole cover off, and on a Harley, you don't. There's an adjuster at the bottom that you can turn with a wrench. Enough about Harleys. To remove the inspection cover from the primary, what I use is a quarter. Just put it in here, twist it around, pull this cap off. Now obviously you don't want to do this with the engine running. And then the chain is right in here. You can reach in and feel it with your finger. Or what works best for me is to take a screwdriver, because I know a screwdriver won't flex, and then put a ruler next to the screwdriver, get the screwdriver into the hole under the primary chain, and just putting the screwdriver as low in the hole as possible so that I have room to move it up. Just check how far up it moves, and if it's around 1/4 inch, then the primary chain is adjusted properly. So these things tend to stay in adjustment. The primary chain doesn't go out of adjustment too often. They're pretty strong and the engine doesn't make that much power. But it's a simple thing to check, so you should check it regularly. So once I've checked it in one position, I get on the bike and I kick the engine around a little bit, and then get my screwdriver back in there, measure the tension again, looks good, and get back on the bike and kick it around a couple more times until I'm sure that I've tested it in a bunch of different positions, because it is possible for a chain to be stretched on one side and tight on the other side. So you just want to make sure that your chain is in good shape by checking the tension in a number of different locations. And then when you're done, just screw this thing back in, the primary plug. Primary cover inspection hole plug, I should say. Alright, so we know that the chain is tight. Now I'm going to show you how to check the oil level. Alright, to check the fluid in the primary, there's a bolt down here, and the primary case should be filled up to the point where it oozes out of the hole. So obviously I've got you can't see it, but I've got a drain pan down underneath it. So if I pull this out and nothing oozes out, then I need to add some fluid to it. And if I pull it out and there's some oil oozing out, then it's good. So in this case I would just open up the top cover, pour some oil in here until there was some oozing out, and then plug it. Now there is some controversy as to what oil to use. I'm sure you ask 5 Enfield owners and they'll all give you 5 different opinions. Some people use type F automatic transmission fluid. That's what I'm going to use in mine. Other people use 20-weight motor oil. I've heard that you shouldn't use the automatic transmission fluid if you have an electric starter. You should stick with oil. But this one's a kickstart only, so we're going to put the type F automatic transmission fluid in it. And from what I hear, your bike will last a long time with this, and it works great. And here's what that looks like. Take my funnel, stick it in the primary, dump a little bit of fluid in. Now do this very slowly. There we go, we have a drip. So it was pretty much perfect before I went and dumped more fluid in it. But it's good to know that I haven't lost any since I last checked it. So I'm just going to let it finish dripping out of there. Oh, you can't see it. Out of there. I'm going to let it finish running out of there into the jar, and then close it back up and be good for another few thousand miles. Now we're going to see what it looks like inside of the primary. I'm going to change my oil. You guys will get a look at exactly how that works. You'll note that I put the bike on the side stand. This is to try to minimize the mess that's about to happen when I pull the cover off. There's no drain plug, so you just have to pull the cover off and let all the oil fall out. I'm going to show you a method to try to reduce that here. But for the previous lesson, when we were checking the fluid level, you want to have it on the center stand for that, for sure. Before we remove the primary cover, I'm going to take off a couple of bolts. I've already loosened them up. This one holds the foot peg on. It's a 17 millimeter with a couple of washers on the outside. A big washer and then a little washer. And then, of course, the shifter, which is a 13 millimeter bolt back here. Loosen up the bolt on the back of the shifter. Pull it off, and then pull the foot peg off. Now we've cleared out the zone, and we're able to undo this bolt and let the oil fall down where it may. Now, in a futile attempt to make a little bit less of a mess, I'm going to put some aluminum foil under here. And hopefully the oil will run down the aluminum foil and into the oil pan rather than getting all over this stuff, so that I don't have to clean it up later. Here we go. It's really cool that one bolt holds this whole thing together. It's one of my favorite aspects of the Enfield design. So now we just pop it loose. Here comes the oil. I'm just going to let it sit there until it drains out. Alright, that's dripped for a while. So now let's see what we find in here. So this is the primary adjuster. You can see there's a lock nut up here and an adjustment bolt in here. So you loosen up this lock nut and then unscrew this bolt until you have the proper tension on it. You can see it, how it moves as I lift it up and down here. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can get a look at the whole thing. And here's where you would measure to see if you have a 1/4 inch of play. Again, kicking the engine over, around and around, and testing it in different places. That's pretty much it. Then you just close it up, reapply the fluid, and you're ready to ride. The primary gasket is a big fat rubber band that goes around the primary, and it is reusable. It's very, very sturdy, so I'm just going to reuse the same one and put it back together and fill it up with oil, and it'll be ready to ride. Bolt goes in the middle. Then clean up this oily mess, put the foot peg and the shifter back on. Don't forget to fill it up until the oil leaks out of this hole right here. And to do that, you want to put it on the center stand again. Right now it's on the side stand, but you want to bolt it together, put it back on the center stand, fill it up until the oil runs out of this hole. And then you are ready to ride. I'm trying to get this in the YouTube 10-minute limit, so that's why I'm not going to bother videotaping myself putting it all back together.